This episode is sponsored by Skillshare.
Hey, Nick with CC Minis here, and today I'm going to show you how to get the best bits for Ork scratch builds, and then we're going to build up an epic Ork vehicle. Alright, let's do this. But be warned, this technique is not for the moral. Alright, let's see what we got here. 3 fantastic kids' toys that'll be perfect to make an Orky kit bash. Just ignore these price stickers. Sure, you could just buy these toys from a thrift store for $1 a pop, but where's the thrill in that? Now these toys are pretty tough. They're built to withstand rough play sessions with toddlers after all. But if you lift them to just the right height and drop them, they shatter into the most amazing bits. Let's take the really small ones and set them aside for later, and see what we have to work with. I think I'm going to make one of those newish Ork Buggy things, and this piece is the perfect starting point with its buggy-like curves. After comparing the buggy body with a few different parts, I'm starting to really like this truck cab. So let's take it to the chop shop to make this buggy top really pop. Now one thing to keep in mind with kids' toys is the plastic isn't the nicest to work with, and compounding with that is these parts are absolutely not built to play nice with each other. So we're going to need to use some super glue instead of plastic cement. And to make that dry quicker, we're going to prime the surface with baking soda. Baking soda helps super glue dry faster and stronger, so I like to preload some crevices before laying down a dollop of glue and then sprinkling some more on top as needed. You may have to do this a few times for some of the sloppier connections. Super glue accelerator is also really helpful in these circumstances. Some gaps are even too big to fill with super glue and baking soda on their own though, like right here. To remedy this, I like to break apart a few small chunks of Classic and use them as a filler before adding the glue. With the cap set, I noticed the back side of the truck toy will make a great front side of the buggy. After trimming off the gas tanks, I glued this piece in place using approximately way too much super glue. When you're doing this, make sure you're in a very well ventilated space. Glue fumes don't mess around, and unfortunately, us mortals don't get a feel no pain or ward save. Just straight 6s. Alright, let's work on these wheels. I used the chassis from the buggy toy because, well, it looked like a buggy. But I want to make the front wheels different from the back, so I took some chunky wheels from the ATV toy and cut the center cross section because it was getting in the way and pushing the wheels out too far to the side. After bringing the truck toy's fuel cans back out to start filling in the gaps, the major shapes are done. Let's bring out the bits box. Every Warhammer player, diorama maker, and kit basher should have a bits box. It's a beautiful box for your bits, bobs, and billions of pieces of plastic trash. Did I just say trash? No. I meant opportunity. Each of these endless pieces of plastic is a potential perfect solution for your project. The most fun part of the build is thinking about all the sort of little details you want to add in. You could, and I did, spend hours checking different bits to see if they'll work. Most of the time, they don't, but some of them are just the right fit and look good for the build. Just like this sweet textured panel that I added to the back of the truck, it just felt right. And this box thingy fits perfectly up here at the top. Another box for the back of the battle buggy because it fits perfectly. Alright, I'm getting a little too carried away with the alliteration here. I'm gonna tone that down a bit. These grates look like they will be some nice flat areas. Maybe I'll use them as a DACA platform once I get to critting the weapons. Okay, so we have a problem. The base I printed for this buggy on the Crowley K1 is done, and well, this thing's too big. We are in luck though. While this is too big for the giant base, it's actually just about the right size for a battle wagon. And yeah, I could use a battle wagon. Let's do that. To get near the exact dimensions of the battle wagon, all I needed to do is add a little bit more junk to the trunk of this Ork vehicle. About 1.5 inches is gonna do it. And this has given me a wonderful, terrible, awful Orky idea. Picture this. A giant truck that rolls into battle and dragging behind it is a tiny little trailer with the biggest cannon you've ever seen mounted to it. This little wheelie boy will be perfect for the job. And this sweet concrete mixer looks perfect to hold up a giant turret. First I popped the top of the mixer canister and stacked some other cylinder parts to build up the major shape and profile of the caboose. After reaming out this hole, I can push fit in a spare wheel. Then adhere another wheel onto the top of that to be a cupola. Cupola? Cupola? Is it cupola or cupola? Let me know down below. Once that is all glued together, we can work on the caboose platform a bit. This gray boxy bit is a good starting point, giving me some extra space to glue things to and to secure the wheel axle. After all, nobody likes a loose caboose. You want to keep those nice and tight. The concrete mixer had to have a nipple-ectomy and then was able to be glued comfortably in its place on the caboose after adding in yet another spare tire as a spacer. Then I added in 2 bits I've always loved but could never find a place for, as like connection pieces to attach the caboose to the battle wagon booty. The booty was a bit too high though, so I broke off this panel and re-glued it on slightly lower and further into the model, giving me a slightly better positioned panel to plop the caboose onto later. A few smaller details were added onto this piece to break the perfect symmetry and give some more visual interest before heading back to the battle wagon. To help cohesify the Mini and make it orkier, we're going to add a boatload of panels made from EVA foam and a couple of these pre-textured styrene sheets. I sliced up some small swatches and arranged them all over the model. I made sure to cover up some more of the egregious gaps from the assembly process. It's very easy to go too far with this step. Finding an exact place to stop on this step is definitely a skill that you need to develop.
And if you're looking for a way to develop skills faster, well, let me tell you about this video's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare was the first sponsor to reach out to me that I have used in the past and can wholeheartedly recommend. You may know Skillshare for classes in photography, film and video editing, and illustration, but did you know Skillshare has hundreds of career-focused classes too? This year is the perfect time to reinvent your goals and yourself. No goals too small. I'm currently exploring Ali Abdal's productivity masterclass, and his concept of the 3 powers of productivity is helping me understand how making small changes in habits and daily routines can compound into big outcomes over time. Another course I'm having a blast with is Social Media Success, Create Incredible Videos with Rob, which is helping me create better, more engaging, and fun videos, just like the one you're watching now. If you want to join Skillshare, I got great news for you. The first 1,000 people to use the link down in the description below will get a 1-month free trial Skillshare. Thank you, Skillshare, for sponsoring this video.
All the panels are in place now, but something's really bothering me with the wheels, and I think I figured out what. The front wheels are slightly bigger than the back, and that's just weird, right? To fix this, I took some more EVA and cut that into little tiny strips the same width as the wheel. Then carefully glued them on strip by strip until the full wheel was covered. This took forever though, so for the second one, I just did this. Neat. Everything's looking fresh and tasty now except for the front end. It's a bit of a boring fupa if you ask me. So let's make this grill into a grill. Yeah! I took an approximate width of the front end between the wheels and cut a slice and glued it on the frontmost panel. Keeping the grill analogy alive, you could consider this to be the car's gums. Okay! I wouldn't, but you can. It's a free country. What? Then I started cutting and gluing some toothy panels to the gums. I started with some canines, then filled it in with some smaller and smaller teeth. One row didn't feel like enough for a proper orc mech though, so I added in a few more for good measure. Alright, I'm really happy with the way this is looking. All we need now is some weapons to table our opponents with. We are going to give this battle wagon the full package, starting with the first weapon listed, the Death Roller. I started out with one of those weird cylinders that you sometimes find on a wire. I've been told these block out interference, but I don't believe that, and I'm fairly certain that that's how the FBI spies on us. Each one is a little tiny microphone, and you can't convince me otherwise. To create a Death Rolla holder, I used a trailer bit from a World War II anti-air kit, which I stabilized a bit using some piston parts from a trailer kit. The FBI mic was a bit too small to fit perfectly, so I added in some small squares of EVA foam as spacers. To create spikes, I'm going to use some toothpicks. I broke these up using some snips, cutting each piece somewhere around 1/8 of an inch long. To glue these on, I poured a little super glue puddle, grabbed each piece with some tweezers, and gently placed them onto the planted microphone. And that'll do it for the Death Roller. We'll trim down the excess supports after priming. Alright, what's next? The grabbing claw. Well, to build that up, I need to introduce you to an old friend of mine. This is Gary. Say hi, Gary. Hi. Gary and I go way back, don't we, Gary? Yeah. Gary's a soul grinder of Nerdle that I converted a long time ago. He's got this nice big belly that I sculpted off 2-part epoxy pipe. Hey now, that tickles. And this cool troll head I got from an old Reaper Bones kit. We've had some pretty good times, huh, Gary? Yeah, we have. But, hey, Gary, I'm gonna need your arm. You're gonna need my what? This stays between us. Don't you ever mention Gary again. Press like to pay respects. With just a little bit of trimming and a circular swivelly base, Gary's arm is going to make a great grabbing claw. For the wrecking ball, I'm going to use one of Gary's old legs. He He's not gonna need that anymore. I used a sharp razor to shave off the Chaos insignias. I did this partly for looks and partly to, obscure the evidence. Then I mounted it to the top of the battle wagon cabin. I'm not entirely sold on this placement. We might come back to this in a bit. For the wrecking ball itself, I dug through my big old bag of beads and quickly found this nice thick purple one. For the chain I used, well, a chain. I cut it to approximately the right height and glued in the center of the bead before dousing the chain itself in super glue, while suspending it in the air to firm it up in a nice straight line. Now to attach the chain to the wrecking ball arm, I brought out my pen drill and made a hole slightly larger than the chain itself. This is going to be a great spot to install the chain, but for the sake of painting, we're going to leave this unattached for now. Alright, melee weapons are done. You know what that means. It's time for the DACA. Each battle wagon in 10th can choose between a kill cannon, regular old lame cannon, or a zap gun. And for this model, we're going to go with the kill cannon. To make this, I need to quickly snag another toy for my son. This is a little pipe toy. My kid has easily a few hundred of these, so it won't be missed. To adhere this to the caboose cupola, I first added in a nicely sized cut of EVA foam, then added on this random orange bit, then finally slotted the pipe into the orange bit before giving it a thorough dousing in super glue. Alright, that was easy enough. What's next? A lava. This one should be pretty quick too. Let's deck out a spherical bit that I added on earlier to make a little lava turret. I started by cutting a square of EVA, then cut out a smaller square from within the square, leaving me with a square. This square was large enough for me to add in a little bead in the middle to act as the lava's barrel. To spruce this up a bit more, I added in a square EVA embellishment, then added a nice long strip to bisect the turret. The last stock of weapons we need are 4 big shootas, and I think I'm going to split this into 2 sets of 2. For the first 2, or the 1-2, I used some sponson style bolters from my bit box, which I coupled together with this greenish thing that I think comes from a scale model tank kit. After spending a good 5 minutes gluing my gloves together, I had this, which I attached to the grate opposite of the grab and claw, and quickly drilled out the barrels. Now for the second set of 2 big shootas, or the 2-2, I meshed together a button from a kid's toy and a tank kit hubcap to make a turret. Then added on these 2-step cylinders before jamming in a styrene tube for a barrel. After drilling out the gun barrels, I glued this on to the top of the cab right next to the wrecking ball arm. Again, I'm not too sure about this placement. We're gonna come back later to adjust. But first, it's riveting time. Way back when, about 9 months ago, I discovered a hidden technique for rivets, and I'll share that knowledge with you now. Diamond dots. These are little circular pieces of plastic that are honestly just a little bit too large for rivets at 32mm scale. But for Orks, I kind of think they're perfect. What you're going to want to do is get this little applicator pen, scrape up some beeswax and use that wax to grab a dot and plop the bottom of it in some freshly poured super glue. Then you just place the dot where you want it and you're golden. I went all around the model with these, focusing on the edges of panels and anywhere else a rivet would make sense or needed a bit more visual interest. Alright, we have just one more phase on the build, so now's a good time to look over the model and readjust anything we don't like. Like I mentioned a couple times earlier, I'm not a big fan of these things around the top of the cab. So let's take care of that. First, I relocated the 2-2 turret down near the other big shootas. Then, after sadly ripping my glove, I placed the wrecking ball to the side of the cab and adjusted the length and chain appropriately. Okay, it's the final step. Gooping time. Gloops, globs, and goobers are a great way to add in some nice texture all around the model, bringing it all together in a nice weathered glory. I let it all sit overnight to dry, and in the morning, it looked like this. And after priming, it looked like this. That's all for today, y'all. Let me know how I should paint this bad boy up in the future. Should it be red to make it go faster, blue to make it lucky, or maybe even a sneaky purple? Let me know in the comments below. Huge shout out to the coolest people in the world, my patrons. Thank you all so much for allowing me to create videos like this. I really, really appreciate your support. And huge thanks to my son for having the best bits just laying around to be taken. If you want to see how I made a whole stomp out of kids' toys, check out this video right here. Until next time, y'all, stay healthy and take care. Bye-bye.